going to move over to this and that, where I'll give you two articles, and you tell me which one is more interesting from a marketer's point of view. And we're focusing squarely on LinkedIn this week. LinkedIn has introduced a couple of really interesting things, or is testing one and has introduced one. But let's have a bit of a chat. Story number one, sponsoring content from any LinkedIn user. LinkedIn has expanded its thought leader ads, allowing businesses to promote content from any user on the app, not just their own employees. Brands can set up thought leader ads by searching for a relevant person and sponsoring their posts through Campaign Manager. The feature will be made available globally by the end of the month, providing brands with a new way to reach their target audience with relevant information. Should be noted, the post creator will get a notification that their post is being requested to be used, and they have to approve it. So you can't just randomly go and start promoting other people's posts. A bit of a side note, when I saw this, I went into our LinkedIn yesterday and tested this. It's in ours. It does exist. Basically, as long as the person is a connection of yours, I'm assuming whoever's running the ad account, sure enough, you go and you search their name, and you click on their name, and it'll show any posts that they've created that are available to be essentially used as ads or boosted. You can pick one, and then they get a notification, and away you go. So it definitely will open up some different opportunities for businesses to expand what they're able to promote. So that's story number one. Story number two, maybe a little bit more fun. LinkedIn is testing in-feed games. LinkedIn is developing a new in-app gaming feature that will allow users to participate in puzzle games and have their scores contribute to the company's performance for competitive rankings. The platform is working on 3 games called Queens, Cross Climb, and Interference, which aim to deepen relationships and spark conversations among users. While the move may seem a little bit random, it's seen as a strategy to boost engagement on the platform. Guys, out of those 2 stories, which is more interesting to you? LinkedIn giving people the ability to boost the posts of others, or they're doing some testing around adding gamification to the feed? Duncan, we'll start with you.
I think it's interesting about the LinkedIn allowing people to put posts, but I'm going to have to go with the gamifying. I just want to talk about both here quickly. Facebook used to allow you to do that. You could boost other pages' content. And then they pulled that, I think because it was kind of used in a way to, it could be used politically in a way too, to kind of get out the wrong messages. And depending on how clear they are with who's paying for the content to be boosted, it became interesting. I think this also happened on Twitter as well. But this is where things where if certain people, maybe in politics, say something, anyone can boost it. So if they misspeak or they say something that's insensitive, there was the potential to be boosted. So I'm curious how LinkedIn's going to do this, and also how do they vet it, control it, so that it's not kind of used maliciously in any way. I do find it interesting. It's actually a question that clients have asked in the past because they wanted to promote thought leaders post. So I find
somebody else's post.
Find it interesting that it's coming now. But anyways, the gamification to me is more interesting because it's I understand why they're doing it. They're probably doing it A, more ad revenue, B, more retention on the website so that they can get more money shareholder wise. That makes sense to me. But how they're going to make it related to the platform, the office environment, the work environment, is what I think is the most interesting part, and how it connects to the company that you work for. That could be good and bad. Depending on how people are playing games, it could have a negative impact. So I'm curious how it's going to fit in. I'm curious about adoption. So I think for me, the gamification on LinkedIn is the most interesting one.
And to your point, Duncan, about how LinkedIn's going to control these ads, from what I've seen, it's basically there's only certain posts you can boost based on it has to line up with the kind of ad you want to create. But I think the vetting is really going to come down to the person that created the post of whether or not they allow this person to boost the post. So I guess, if somebody said something bad on LinkedIn
or Instagram,
what's that?
influencers who want to be paid for their content? Like, is that what's going to end up happening with this, or is it something else? Like, generally, platforms should reward people who have good content because it's making the platform better. But this sounds like LinkedIn's taking all the money and just leveraging its people. So I'm curious how this will play out. I'm curious how the thought leaders will leverage it, even if they can't.
Yeah, like why couldn't a thought leader come to the business and say, I'll write you a glowing review on my LinkedIn profile, and in exchange, you slide me something outside of LinkedIn, and that'll give you the ability to boost it. Then there's all sorts of transparency issues, like you mentioned, too. It could open, it's an interesting tool, but it could open up a big can of worms.
Sure can.
Ian, what are you going with, the gamification or the thought leaders?
Yeah, post? I kind of basically agree with everything Duncan just said. I kind of feel like both are very interesting. From a marketing standpoint, I think the boosting of posts is the more interesting one. But like we were just discussing a moment ago, not my first thought, but an initial thought was, does it start to make you question the validity of the post if it's starting to be used as an ad? Whereas if something is just a post that someone made of their own volition, then you trust that person. It's almost like it's like Amazon's user reviews. People trust people that are like them, but then all of a sudden, does it get to a point where you're like, is that actually legit? As you with a lot of Amazon reviews. So that's kind of an interesting thing, and as we just said, it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. And the LinkedIn, the gamification, that's interesting. We've spoken before on this podcast about LinkedIn. How do they get people coming back every day? A lot of other social profiles, people are logging in every single day and perhaps not doing so with LinkedIn. And is the introduction of games a way to try and get people to do that? If so, is it the right way? I personally, I don't think of LinkedIn as somewhere that I would go to play a game, but I'm one of those people that doesn't log in every day. So it's like, I don't know whether that will get people to return. Again, it'll be something that we're just going to have to watch, and it'll be very interesting to see how it all develops, I think.
Guys, I can't wait until the very first time I can play a game of Cross Climb with you on LinkedIn. And our results will be shared with the world. Ian brought up an interesting point about some of these games where if there's some sort of company leaderboard, what happens if we're all just awful at this game? Like, do people just look at us like we're a bunch of idiots because we can't figure out Cross Climb? So I'm not sure. I kind of agree with you. Both are interesting. I think the thought leader ads are cool, but you know what? It's just a matter of time till somebody screws with them and ruins it for all of us, because that's what happens with everything. So that's why we can't have nice things. The gamification is, I don't know. Are people going to use it? Like, I don't think in the morning, like, I got to get on LinkedIn to catch up with a game I'm playing. But you know what? Look how many people play Wordle or games like that, where it's almost just like a little brain teaser to get you going in the morning. What if LinkedIn has a couple of interesting games people can play and share results with their coworkers or their friends? So who knows? Yeah. But props to LinkedIn for trying things. I'm always cool. It's always interesting to see people trying things. So whether or not it works, another thing to be determined. And as I did mention off the top, the gamification is only being tested right now. There's no indication of it if it'll even come out. The Thought Leader app ads are available, and it says will be available globally by the end of March, which is literally in a couple of days. So we'll see how those take off.